Never mind that I've been watching it for 5 minutes already.
That was so good. What a ride. Before we get any further in this video, I do want to say that I will be discussing police brutality and racism in this video, so if that is something that is upsetting to you or is a trigger for you, please tread lightly with this video. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Falcon and the Winter Soldier discussion. Today we are going to be talking about episode 6, the finale, One World, One People. So if you haven't gotten around to watching that yet, go ahead and pause this video, go watch that finale, and then come back and join me. You know, I have to say, they pulled it all together. I didn't think they were going to, but they managed to, I think, wrap up all the storylines in one episode. Kind of, not like the best, but you know, they did it. I'm just gonna jump right into a discussion about this entire episode because there's a lot to unpack. First of all, can I, if I may just sing the praises of the cinematography, the sentient popcorn, the cinematography. Amazing, this whole entire episode, but especially the fight scenes. There were so many moments in all of the fights that I was just like, oh my gosh, the choreography, the fight choreography, unmatched, unparalleled. I was amazed every single fight scene, and I'm not like a big like fight person. I guess I'm just not a violent person, so usually I'm just kind of like blasé during fight scenes and stuff like that, but every single fight scene in this episode, beautiful. All the different three-way fights. Every time there's a three-way fight in any Marvel movie, I'm just like astounded at the level of synchronicity between all the different people in the fight. And not only that, but then the way that they're also interacting with their surroundings. Like, for example, in this episode with Carly and John Walker fighting, and she was like running through the like streets or whatever, and they had, you know, like the pipes and everything where they were like under construction, and she was like jumping up over the pipes and like standing on the pipes to get away from him. I was like, how long did it take them to get through that choreography enough for them to be comfortable to do that? And like, that's possibly most likely not them. I'm sure it's their stunt doubles and they're used to stuff like that, but still, it's amazing. Every fight scene in this episode was amazing. This felt the most cinematic out of not only Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but also out of WandaVision too. Like, WandaVision had moments that felt very Marvel movie, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier really just felt like it was a 6-hour movie that they just chopped into pieces. Like, instead, like, say how there's supposedly like there were 33 hours or more of Endgame, and they chopped it down obviously to 3 hours to fit into a movie length. It feels like they kind of had that happen with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like they shot a movie and there were like 6 hours of footage, and they were like, well, just give it all to them in bite-sized pieces. That was a really convoluted way of explaining that, but I think you get the picture. But this episode, definitely, it felt the most cinematic. It felt like there were the highest stakes out of all of the episodes so far. What else do I want to talk about in this episode? The new suit. Falcon's new suit, or I guess Captain America, as he should rightfully be called, because he is our Captain America now, which, let's be real, we knew that was like the end goal for this series. But like, seeing it actually there, seeing Sam in his new Captain America suit with his wings and the shield, cinematic beauty. I guess I'll just keep talking about Sam since I'm off on a Sam tangent now. I really like that Sam is the one that got to speak with Carly, and I know I said that a couple episodes back when he was the one that got to go in there at Mama Donia's funeral and, you know, talk to Carly and be like, hey, what you're doing is kind of not okay. And I really like that he got to kind of continue that conversation in this episode, even though it didn't go nearly at all like he wanted it to. But I think that's what's important in setting Sam apart from not only John Walker, but also Steve Rogers. Like, I don't want to say that Steve was a bad Captain America, because that's just altogether untrue. But I do think that Sam Wilson, as a black man in America, has a different perspective on so many things that Steve Rogers could never have, and certainly John Walker could never have. Because, as Sam says in the episode, he doesn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. And I like that Sam also got to be the one at the end that was speaking to the GRC committee and was like, listen, you can't do this because you're no better than Thanos. That whole conversation, his whole speech there at the end, had me emotional. So I know if it made me, a white girl, emotional, hearing just such a moving, empowering speech about doing better and being better and, you know, stepping up to the plate and helping other people who need your help and deserve your help, frankly. Like, I know if that made me feel empowered, I can't even imagine how empowering that was to not only black kids watching the show, but even black adults. And I think Sam, as Captain America, has come around at such an opportune time with everything that happened last summer in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of the police brutality that black people experienced and Black Lives Matter protesters experienced last summer. And now this year again with Ma'Khia Bryant and everyone else. There's so many this year that they've killed already that it just... There's so many names that I can't even remember them off the top of my head anymore. And that's terrifying. We should not live in a world where cops are killing black people, black children, because they feel threatened. Like, and we got like a very small, not even a victory, it's just accountability with Derek Chauvin getting convicted of 3 counts of murder. He still has to actually be, you know, sentenced. So, but all of that is happening in the real world. And I don't think Marvel has ever taken a moment and like addressed real world things in Marvel. Like, there's always been some kind of like disconnect between, you know, what's happening in a Marvel movie and what's happening in the real world. And I feel like with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there had to be that connection. They had to make that bridge between, yes, this is a fantasy series, and yes, these are all magical, superpowered people that have crazy things happen to them, but some of them are going to face these very real life problems just because of the way that they look. And I think Marvel did a really good job of handling it and addressing it. Like, I figured from the start that this series was going to be very, like, they weren't going to mess around. I knew they were going to address racial inequality and injustices and stuff like that. I just didn't understand, or I guess comprehend, how hard they were going to get into that. So I think it's really interesting that Marvel was just kind of in your face about it. Like, I never want to commend any company for doing like the bare minimum when it comes to diversity and representation of people of color and stuff like that. So I definitely don't want to do that with Disney or Marvel or anything like that. But I do think that they are taking a step in the right direction with this show, and I hope that we continue to see them addressing stuff like this in the future, because it's important and it's just time. It's time. We need to face all of these injustices that people that aren't white are facing in America and around the world. And I do think that if anyone can and will do it, it will be Marvel. So I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and see how they deal with race and everything in the future. Hopefully they don't screw it up. Because Marvel hasn't been the best in the past when it comes to people of color. Wanda Maximoff and Pietro Maximoff are supposed to be not white. If I remember correctly, I think they're supposed to be Romani, but don't hold me to that. It's been a while since I've read into their history or whatnot, but clearly they were white in the movies. So maybe in the future, maybe with enough backlash also, Marvel will continue to be taking the right steps into diversity and representation of people of color. Not that that wasn't an important little tangent to go off on, but I don't want this entire video to be completely serious. So let's talk about Bucky a little bit. I feel like I addressed this in my last episode, and I don't want to give off the idea that I am unhappy with Bucky's character arc, or that he should have gotten more screen time or more this or more that. Like, I don't want to be that person at all, but I do kind of feel like Bucky got the short end of the stick a little bit in this show, and I don't know why I feel that way, because I feel like he did, he got fair treatment, he got his plot lines wrapped up and everything, but I feel like, I don't know, I guess I still feel like it was kind of at the expense of previous progress that he's made. I don't know, and I feel like the show set up a lot of moments where Bucky was going to have like a hero moment, or maybe it was just me reading into it differently, but particularly the scene with it's not a bus, it was like the tank with the GRC council members, when it was falling and Bucky was on the ground underneath it. I guess in my head I thought they were trying to let Bucky have a moment where he was going to catch the vehicle, which honestly probably wasn't like realistic even in a superhero setting. I don't think that Bucky legitimately could have caught that car and like stopped it from crashing. I don't know, maybe he could have, but it felt like they were setting that up, and then Sam saved the day, and I don't want to take away from that at all, because that was an iconic moment and we needed it, the MCU needed it, but I don't know, I felt like they set it up as a little moment for Bucky and then it wasn't, but then again, that could also just be me having read the scene entirely wrong. I am glad that Bucky seems to have gotten his affair in order. Sounds like he was like getting ready to die, and that wasn't the case, but I'm glad that he like made it through his list of stuff that he wanted to do, to make up for being the Winter Soldier. I'm glad that he got that all sorted out and he seems to be happier about it. But the thing that I can't stop thinking about is how he gave Steve's old book to the therapist, like, to prove that he had done it, I guess. Like, to begin with, I don't understand why he felt like he needed to prove that he had done it. I guess so he wouldn't have to go to the therapy sessions anymore. But then I'm also looking at it at like, that was one of the last things of Steve Rogers that Bucky owned, and he just left it for this rude therapist that seemed to hate him. Like, I didn't like that decision. I think Bucky would have and should have kept Steve's book. I thought I'd have more to say about Carly and her storyline, but really I'm just disappointed. Like, I guess I knew that the likely outcome of this was going to be for her to die, but like, I don't know, I felt like she had so much potential and that was obviously dashed. So that's all I have to say about the way they wrapped up Carly's story. I'm really upset. I feel like she had potential. Like, the only good thing that came out of her character arc is that I guess her plight resonated with Sam, and now Sam's getting something done about it. But like, why do we have to kill off female characters? Why do we have to do it? The only character arc that I liked less than Carly's would have to be John Walker's, because he didn't earn his little righteous, heroic moment at the end of this episode. I'm sorry, he didn't. One good deed does not a good person make. And I don't like that Sam and Bucky were kind of buddy-buddy with him by the end of the episode. Like, I'm not happy about it. I don't think John Walker earned anything nice. I don't think he earned being treated nicely after everything that he's done. And frankly, I don't want to see him again in the future, even as US agent. I don't want to see him. I don't like him. Even if, I don't know anything about US agent. I literally looked it up as soon as the episode was over last night to see if US agent was a character or if it was just something they were calling him in the show. And US agent is a character, but I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy or what he is. But I don't know. I don't like John Walker. I don't trust John Walker. I also don't trust this Valentina lady. Something about her doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if it's the way she's being played. Of course, I know nothing about her, so maybe she is that kind of like over the top. I did it, or did I? Didn't I? Like, I don't find that interesting in a character, I guess. Like, it's annoying. And so her and John Walker like teamed up together. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that. Literally, John Walker did not earn anything in this episode. He did not earn his hero moment. Like, he made one good decision in battle. One. And now they're like, everything's fine. Like, no. Marvel can be villain apologists sometimes, but this is not the time to be a villain apologist. Isaiah Bradley, though, I feel like he was a breakout character in this show, in this series. I hope that we see more of him in the future. I think he and Sam have a wonderful dynamic, and it'll be great to see if Sam continues to kind of go to him for like counsel as he continues to be Captain America. And also, I just really loved that touching scene at the end where Isaiah Bradley got to see his statue and got to realize that he isn't erased from history anymore. I really hope that wasn't the end of him. I really hope that we see him more in the future. If Young Avengers happens anytime soon, I think that we will. So, fingers crossed that happens. And finally, last but not least on my discussion about this finale is Sharon Carter. I don't want to say I told you so. I feel like I say this every time there's like a big reveal that I got right with a Marvel show. But I did call it. Sharon is the power broker. I don't know what that bodes for the MCU. I don't know how that's going to affect our heroes or our villains in the future. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out with her now also being pardoned and back as an agent for the US government. Clearly we saw in that end credit scene that she is going to use that to her advantage. So I guess we can only wait and see what happens with Sharon Carter as the power broker. I definitely think that leaves it open to tie in the X-Men or of other Marvel entities that way, since she was like based in Madripoor, and that is a location that is very well known in the X-Men comics and whatnot. So maybe that will be a bridge that we see used in later films or series to kind of bring the X-Men over into the cinematic universe. And that'll be exciting. I think it'll be great. It's going to be really cool to finally see, other characters, other Marvel franchises, other Marvel movie franchises specifically tying into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that's going to be so cool, and I think when it finally happens, it's just going to blow everyone's mind. I can't wait. So yeah, overall, I guess they did a pretty good job of tying everything up. I know in almost every episode before this, I was like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't know what this story is doing, but they figured it out in time for the finale, so even if it wasn't the best, even if there were some bits that just didn't seem to make sense or felt rushed, they pulled it together, and it loosely resembles a good story from beginning to end, even if there were bumps along the way, and even if they came crashing into the finish line. They did it. I wouldn't say that it was my favorite. I think I definitely liked WandaVision a lot more than I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had more important commentary than WandaVision did, if that makes sense. Because WandaVision, yes, it was about grief and coping and whatnot, but I don't know, I feel like Falcon and the Winter Soldier just dealt with so many real world issues. Not to say that grief and coping isn't real world, but racial inequality is a much more pressing and much more relevant real world happening. And like I said earlier, this show came along right when the world needed it, so I think that timing was just impeccable. So both shows are good in their own right, but I think I personally enjoyed watching WandaVision more, but I enjoyed the message of Falcon and the Winter Soldier more, I guess. I felt like that was a much more needed and necessary message. I don't know. I'm bad with words, and I'm tired. I didn't fall asleep until after the episode was over at 3:45 this morning, so I'm exhausted, and I think I'm going to wrap up this video here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you would like to be notified about when I post a new video, go ahead and click that little bell icon down there. As far as Marvel videos go, I probably won't be back until towards the end of May, beginning of June, because I do want to make a few videos leading up to Loki, specifically about Loki. So I'll announce it on my regular channel when I'm coming back for Marvel content. But if you watch me for my regular content, I will be back next Wednesday with a venting session that was really supposed to just be a life update, but I got upset, so it happens. And having said all of that, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye! I just got distracted. There's a shadow on my wall of the balcony outside of my window, and there's a lizard on the railing, I guess, and I just saw the little shadow of the lizard go. So